alive and well, I'm wide awake. Won't take your brand, I'm not your slave. You serve your God, Lord of the flies. I pity you and you mean mine. Lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes. Your bloody mouth unsatisfied. God sees the trap you set for me. He'll not be mocked, I will be free. We will not bend. We will not break. How dare you touch what God gave? We'll never give in, never give up, never back down, never surrender, never surrender. Your fear will not make me behave. I won't march in your masquerade. Your hollow threats won't shut me up. I won't bow down, enough's enough. You say you'll give us what we need, as if you own the air we breathe. Stand up 100 million strong. Thought we lie down, well you, the God are wrong. We will not bend, we will not break. How dare you touch what God gave? We'll never give it, never give up, never back down, never surrender, never surrender. I'll walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Just keep going, keep on going. Jesus with me every step. Just keep going, keep on going. Walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Just keep going, keep on going. Jesus closer than my breath. Just keep going, keep on going. We will not bend, we will not break. How dare you touch what God gave? We'll never give in, never give up, never back down. We'll never give in, never give up, never back down. We'll never give in, never give up, never back down. Never surrender. Just keep going, keep on going. Jesus with me every step. Just keep going, keep on going. Walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Just keep going, keep on going. Jesus closer than my breath. Just keep going, keep on going.
Peace, family. This is Dr. Kia Pruitt. I'm honored today to be here to bring someone that's very important and very special to me today. Her name is Gold Star Mother Susan Price. She is the mother of the fallen soldier, Brother Sergeant, Aaron Kenefick, who was killed in action. And I will let her tell her story in a minute. Forgive me, it took me a little time getting on today because I listened to and watched some videos about what happened that and what should not have happened in regards to this wonderful Marine who had been fighting for our freedoms. So I'm a little frazzled. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring on Gold Star Mother Susan Price, and I will read some very beautiful accolades about who she is as a woman. Right now, I introduce to you someone who actually contacted me via social media. She did and spoke to me, and she's a very loving, motherly woman who has brought me into the community, the Patriot community, and allowed me to meet some very wonderful people. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring her on the screen, and then I'll read beautiful accolades, about who she is. Let me bring on Mother. Hi, Mother.
Hello, Dr. Kia. Hello, listeners. Love to you.
Hello, Mother. I want to introduce you, but I don't know how you do it. Excuse me. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Excuse me. Excuse me,
No,
family. Let me read this biography, and then I'll let Mother speak. Gold Star Mother Susan Price is a national Gold Star mother, and she's a resident of this great state of Florida. She's the daughter of a Marine herself, and she is the mother of a fallen soldier, a great American hero. Excuse me,
take your
Aaron Michael Kennevick, a highly decorated stellar Marine of over 12 years. The tragic loss of her son and his Marine embattled training team has raised more questions than answers. And I can assure you that when I watch videos about what happened to him, I have many questions. Through her undying love for her son, Gold Star mother Susan Price transitioned into a wonderful investigative researcher through countless hours of research, years of connecting the dots, factual documentations, eyewitness accounts. She began to see the crimes that were brought up against her son while he was fighting for our freedoms. And she learned what happened on that fateful day, September 8th, 2009. I'm sorry. When her son was abandoned and neglected and then killed in action and left to die. Susan Price is known as a veterans advocate and a national voice. She's appeared on 60 Minutes, many, as well as many Patriot radio broadcasts and other Patriot, excuse me, shows, radio shows, having worked with various patriot groups concerning the military and veterans. She is known as the Gold Star mother with a voice, and she's known as the go-to person to speak on behalf of Gold Star families. So for those of you who don't know, a Gold Star mother is a mother of a fallen soldier, a soldier who was killed in action, and in this case, killed by the military industrial complex who is supposed to take care of him and protect him. I'm sorry. I don't know how she does it, family. Excuse me. At this time, I'd like to introduce to you a beautiful person, the mother of the Patriot community, Gold Star mother, Susan Price. Mother, I turn it over to your hands. How do you do?
thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Kia. Well, it takes the love of a mother and the strength of a mother
Yes,
or
ma'am.
a father. I don't mean to exclude fathers and family members, but our families were tragically credentialed, and it's a club you don't go looking to join. Fate and destiny choose its members. And I am also a veteran. I served our great nation in uniform. My father was a Marine. I was in the Army, but a third of the men in my family served. I'm the only woman. And my great grandmother lost her son, her baby boy, her seventh child, in the Navy he was in on Christmas Eve. So my great grandmother had the telegram service at her front door, like I had the two Marines confronting me that day. So, we do inherit, and I don't know if your listeners know this, and it's one of those secrets we found out through the years. We inherit our families through the DNA trauma. History repeats itself. And unluckily, I was that person in my family's genealogy to inherit what my great grandmother experienced. But I am also the healer in my family to put an end to it. And I was honored that President Trump, before he was president, 9 months before, I was asked to speak on his stage. And he loves our veterans and our military so much. He loves our great nation. And I've met President Trump, spoke to him, and spent time with him. I also met the president that was before him and spent time there because my son's death is tied to 2 Living Medal of Honor recipients, which is the highest awards in the military. And my son and his men were also set up by the shadow government and deep state. Not just the military industrial complex, but the State Department. Someone from the State Department had been there the day before. I want to begin with a little something I just wrote real quick.
Okay.
And I wanted to thank your listeners for their hearts and their sentiments. And I read some of their comments, touched my heart. And I just want to let y'all know that I started out as the grieving mother, but now I'm the mother. So, and I represent for you all because a lot of mothers don't have a voice. So I've been the to-go person, go-to person, not just for mothers, but also for military men that have served. These are officers that ended up in jail or were on their way to jail for doing their job by these deep state military generals and officers that were working for the bad guy. So I wanted to remind everybody that during times of peace, sons laid their fathers to rest. And during times of war, fathers laid their sons to rest. Did you know that less than 1% of our great nation serves this country in uniform? That's an atrocity right there. Less than 1% are representing the other 99%, giving you all a voice. Are you using it? Are you showing up at your communities, your schools, councils, events? I'm here to share with you that what my family and I witnessed 13 and a half years ago when we were tragically credentialed into the Gold Star family, the clubs that you don't want to be indoctrinated into. We saw that enemy, all the enemies, the corporations, the military complex, those working in government, those who look at you with a smile and a suit or a uniform while they're sticking the knife in your back. We saw them. That's the battlefield. What we witnessed on that battlefield that day worked itself into your communities, your schools, and now it's at your doorstep at the 12th hour. So what are you going to do about it? Because I will tell you that the less than 1% of us that gave our voice for generations, I'm a generational warrior. Even out of uniform, I serve in some capacity. Please use your voices. We're at the 12th hour now. And with that, Dr. Kia, I'll let you ask questions.
Okay. I heard President Trump say at the CPAC, the conference, that he would totally obliterate the deep state. And it made me emotional. It made me think of your son and in the fight that you're in. How did that make you feel when you heard that speech?
Well, I love it. And I've been following everything that Donald Trump, our president, then and now, has to say. I followed all his orders. I've written about a lot of this on AmericaOutloud.com. AmericaOutloud.com. You can go there. I've been writing for them for 6 or 7 years because when the Lord told me, when I cried and read the investigation reports, and I knew because I'm a very spiritual woman and I have spiritual insights. The Lord talks to me, shows me things. I meet people that become a part of my life, and I just know, how are you going to fit in my life? There's patterns. And when I went into the service, they said that I could have been a really great cop or a detective because I've solved some cases, and I'm at 17, 18 years old. So I have the natural ability, and I'm a researcher, and I dig deep. But I also have the gift to see, and I have a gift of discernment. But you don't know that you're going to use it later in life. A lot of us, we don't know what our gifts are until something happens, and we have to rescue ourselves or a family member or a friend, and then we find out who we are. And so being that mother of that beautiful little boy that used to pick dandelions out of the backyard and put them in a teacup, and the little boy that would place that teacup on my table and say, "These are for you, Mama," when he was 4 and 5 years old. And that beautiful boy that was the paper boy on our street and looked out for the elderly, because we lived in Buffalo, New York, and we had very cold, blizzardy weather, at least a handful of times out of the winters. And he looked out for the elderly and make a shopping list, what they needed, and collected their money and made sure that we picked those up when we went to the grocery store. He was always that person. So little did I know when I delivered him in the hospital on a blizzardy night in February, and the doctor held him up high like this, like he offered him up to the Lord and said, "Susan, what name do you give your child?" I said, "Aaron Michael," meaning warrior, angel. Little did I know that by the time he was almost 31, he would grow into those angel wings. I never knew I would be the mother of an American hero. I was always that 10, 11, 12-year-old little girl that would adorn my wrist with the name of a fallen hero or those killed in action or missing in action during Vietnam. Little did I know that I would become a mother one day of a man who loved our country so much, loved you all so much. Even though he didn't know you, he loved you because he believed in God, and he believed in our Christian Judeo way of our moral sanctity and sovereignty, that he served for you and he died fighting for you all.
He is very, very handsome and tall, and you could just see the light in his eyes, Mother. You can see it just beaming from his essence. Yes.
Yeah, he looks like my father and my brothers a lot.
Wow.
And my side of the family, he was 6'3",
Okay.
and he was a lady magnet. But he was a humble man, and he loved the Lord, and he was just a humble guy, filled with life.
What did you and his dad say? I couldn't bring up a picture of him, but here's what I posted on my community section for all those who didn't get to see. Can you see it here? Yes, he's so handsome. What did you and his dad? He's so gorgeous.
He was, and actually, you see those gold jumper wings right above all his ribbons, and he had the humanitarian award and 2 Purple Hearts, and he was placed number 1 at jump school. He was Marine of the Year twice. He served as we know that he was bad, but back then we didn't know that President George W. Bush was one of the bad guys. We didn't know that back then. And he was his personal attendee at the Republican National Convention in 2004. So, and he had gone through boot camp and all that. And he also was quarterback on his football team at high school. And he could have gone to college on a scholarship. But he said, no, I'm going in the military. It's kind of similar to Pat Tillman, who was also very handsome, was already a professional football player, but Tillman went into the Army and was killed by friendly fire. Yeah, very similar in different ways. But
What
so
did
my
you-
son, pardon, go ahead.
No, no. Go ahead. I want to hear you.
And
You're
I
probably
was
going
going to
to
say,
say it.
when he was in high school, one day at the end of his sophomore year, he said to me, Mama, I said to him, you need to think of colleges, boy. And, and he
That's
said,
exactly what I was going to ask you. How did he come to wanting to be in the military? What were you
yeah.
thinking?
And that's what I said to him. And I was his mentor. You know, he
Okay.
loved me and his father and his uncles. And he just loved his family. He was all into his family. And he had the best friends too, because he was that way to people. And he said, Mama, I've been giving it a lot of thought and I want to go in the Marine Corps. And I said, well, you know, and it was peacetime. But I said, well,
Okay.
son, you could go to college on a scholarship for sports. You play football, baseball, basketball. And a lot of his friends of color would say, you know, he had moxie, but he had sway. Like he swag. Aaron had swag, and he could palm a basketball in his hand, and he was a total athlete. And he said, no, no, no. I want to give of myself to something greater than me. I want to dedicate myself in humanity to something greater than me. And I want to do that because Grandpa did it, my father, and I served. But he intended on becoming a lifer. And when he passed away, he was 3 credits shy of his master's degree.
Oh, wow.
He wanted to get his PhD. He was very bright. And you know, he actually, I should tell you this, you know, the commercial with the Marine and the sword, and they always pick these strikingly handsome men.
Yes.
He was actually chosen to do that commercial.
Wow.
But then
Wow.
his top secret security clearance had come in, so he couldn't do it. Yeah. And he said that he felt like a rock star when he was in attendance with, you know, the president now that we didn't know then, Bush. But he said he felt like a rock star, you know, at that Republican National Convention because they were asking him to do commercials. And the Secret Service people were saying, leave the sergeant alone. Leave him alone. But, so he went in and, you know, he always was like number one or two, never. And he would say, Mama, you named me Aaron, 2 A's. That's always first. I always got to be first. And I have to compete with myself. And, you know, when it was my birthday, he would make sure he called me at midnight the night before so that he could beat his sisters because he couldn't let anybody beat him at anything because that's how he was. But he used that spirit in a fun way, but also competitive edge with anything that it was, whether it was his studies or competing against people, you know, in the military or going after bad guys, you know. And he would jump out of planes. He was part of the special operations
Wow.
when he was stationed in Germany, and then he would go on missions to Africa and the Ivory Coast. So
Wow.
we see all these things about the African rebels fighting and trying to burn down the embassy, which it was Operation Shining Express back in the 1990s. And I remember getting a phone call from him, 92 or 93, in the middle of the night. And I could hear the choppers in the background. And he said, Mom, I just want to tell you I love you and I'll be back. And next month I'm coming home for 2 weeks leave. And I said, okay, son. And he said, I can't tell you where I'm going, but it's the hottest place on the face of the earth. Well, I knew it was Africa. And the next day I got on. Back then in the 90s, we didn't have all this stuff with the computers, you know. So I went and we had the BBC and I found it and I downloaded where he was because they were reporting troops going over to Africa. And so when he came home on leave, I had the paper sitting next to his favorite food.
Mhm.
And he didn't say anything at first. And he's like, what the heck? How did you know where I was? But as a mother or father, we're connected to that child in life and in death.
That's
And I
right.
will tell you that. Yes.
Mother, did he have high security clearances?
Yes. He had the
Yeah.
top TSCI security.
Okay.
And he couldn't be around the people he was with working at the highest levels. He worked at U.S. CENTCOM in Tampa at MacDill Air Force Base with these generals running the Iraq and Afghanistan war.
Mm.
And he had been the bodyguard, well, not bodyguard, but a personal attendee with President Bush at that time, and worked with very high ranking generals that worked with NATO. And so and then Marines, they all are military. You serve somewhere for 3 or 4 years, then you get deployed somewhere else, and he was a lifer. He wanted to make a career out of it, but ended up serving over 12 years. Yeah.
And I can imagine he probably couldn't share certain things with you, right? He couldn't tell you where he was. Yet could he drop clues, or just at least
Not
warn you of
really.
certain things?
He was a stickler for that, and he would just say, "Mama, if I put something somewhere, it's meant for a reason." But I knew we had developed that code talking when he was a kid, and then when he moved up into the military world, and he would tell me, you and I can't have certain conversations over the phone. You know too much stuff, Mom.
Because you served, right?
I served, but he was at a higher level. And he goes, I don't even know how the heck you know the stuff but you know way too much. Well, I'm a researcher, number one, but also the Lord shares with me. I have that gift, that ability to know a few things every now and then. And it's pretty cool how that works. But it's a blessing and a curse, because yeah, even when bad things happen, sometimes I'm warned or showed. Yeah.
Did you have any idea what the presidents were doing, like with your intuition and just being in the military? Could you sense that something wasn't right with our government?
Yeah, I knew.
Okay.
I knew for quite a while,
Okay.
but especially when when it started was the day that 9/11 occurred. And I put the television on, went in to take a shower, and I walked out in the living room right when the first tower was, decimated. And the second one, I'm standing in front of the television, and I had Good Morning America on. And, then I didn't realize that, who owned that media and how bad they were. But I heard the Holy Spirit say to me, watch as the second building implodes. And then I knew right then and there that was my wake up call. But I never was asleep all the way. I was half asleep. And then from that point on, I was awake. And I started watching everything militarily. But we didn't have Google back then. We didn't have those type of cell phones or technology. And let's not forget, technology's been weaponized. It's good for one aspect of life, but the bad people, the evil people, weaponize everything that's good.
And after 9/11, and that whole administration, I think that was the Bushes, came the president 44, that America we really thought he was going to bring the nation together. A lot of us, especially those coming from, communities of color. Could you sense anything you could? Okay.
Yeah. Well, Aaron told me he had, this was coming into 2008, and, he had his top secret security clearance. He said to me, Mama, I know you have a lot of friends of color. Some of my best friends are color. And he said, please tell your girlfriends. And he had met them. They all loved Aaron.
Mhm.
And he said, please tell your girlfriends not to vote for this man. He's a bad dude, Mama. He's a bad dude, and he's coming out of nowhere. This
Wow.
young junior senator is coming out of nowhere.
Mm.
He has no past.
Mm.
That not even anybody in the colleges knew of him.
Mm.
So I said, I'll do my best, but that's all I can do.
Wow.
But, you know, in number 44, he really picked up steam toward the end of that, toward the end of his administration for the worst. And when he went into the second term, that's when he really escalated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I watched every second. I knew from the moment, well, I can look evil in the eye. And I've looked a lot of evil in the eye. I've met the Bidens. I've met number 44 in person, as I sent you the picture.
Yeah. See if I can bring it up.
At that Medal of Honor ceremony.
Yes,
I met Pelosi. I met all the demons.
Mm.
Yeah. And I've been surrounded by frenemies, both military and politically.
Wow.
So, yeah. And
I'm sorry.
No, and I survived it. But, you know, you survive physically, but a part of you emotionally dies off. And then, you know, you have a new tribe, like your listeners, you, all the friends I've met along the journey become part of that. Even though my son's still my son, he's in spirit, and I know he's there. I can feel it.
Mother, you were talking about meeting number 44, and I have a picture of it here. This was some type of ceremony, yes? I can't blow it up.
That was the second Medal of Honor ceremony.
Okay.
And I'm over here
This
to the
right
right.
here. Okay. This you here? This you, Mother, right here? To the right. Okay.
Put my glasses.
Okay.
Okay, okay, over here to the right on the end.
Okay.
That's the lady in the white blouse. I'm wearing.
Okay, yes, I see you right here. Okay.
And
That
so
was the Medal of
that's
Honor?
the Gold Star families of the 5 men that were killed.
Okay.
Well, 4 on the battlefield, and there's another one that was killed at Walter Reed Hospital.
I was looking at the video that you sent me. At the end of the video, when I read that what your son said, I broke down. He said, "Mama, if you're ever confronted at your front door by 2 Marine officers," I think he said, then
Just
you know that 2 Marines, then you know that I'm in heaven. Is that
I'm with Jesus. Yeah.
I'm with Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. And he always would tell me that for 12 and a half years that he served, he would remind me, and he would tell me, and I had just talked to him the night before. Now, let me tell you, so I'll start out.
Okay.
He went into the service, and then, you know, he had his 2.5 years later, he received his top secret security clearance. And he said, we can't have conversations over the phone anymore that apply to the military, because even though you don't think anything of it, there's a lot to it because you know too much, and certain words you say will set stuff off. And I could get in a lot of trouble, and I took an oath. I said, I understand, son. You're in my world. In my world.
Right.
So, but simultaneously to that time frame, I had been home one day and received a phone call from my next door neighbor. And she said, Susan, I want to tell you there's some man out in a black SUV taking pictures of your house. You need to go out there. So I ran down the driveway. And by that time, he had pulled up in my driveway, taking pictures of my license plate. And then he sped away. I couldn't. And I thought, that is the strangest thing. Well, 2-3 days later, my son tells me that he received his top secret security clearance. So I think, you know, was I life insurance on him in case something makes you wonder. You hear about these black SUVs. Well, I never really gave it much thought till I connected all the dots. That was the very profound moment. And listen, I'm friends with some of the SEAL Team 6 families, and a couple of my other families from this case have been followed and watched, but not as much as me because of the security clearance of my son. Now, so Aaron served out, he worked in Germany, and he was part of special forces where he would jump out of planes and they would go on these missions, and he couldn't talk about that stuff. Then, he'd be all over the world to different places. Probably been to every country that there was. And he received all these awards, and he was not a bragger. He kept the book of who he was and what he did. And I read them after he passed. He had everything. And I thought, wow, that was my child, the boy I raised, and the little boy that would say, I'm going to go play hockey with my friends down on the next street. Yeah, well, I said, son, I'm going to drive by and make sure that that's where you are. And he goes, I know, Mom, but he was a good kid. But still, you have to have some discipline on your children and, communication. And we would eat dinner together and go to church on Sunday. But you have to let your children know they're loved and that they're mattered, that their opinion matters.
Yes.
So growing up, he was always just very close to me and his dad and our family. And we talked about this, not just amongst ourselves, but among the aunts and uncles and cousins. And, it gives you a sense of being important in your world. So you can make a difference out in the real big world. So, and he did, and he got noticed because he was good at his job. And so then he calls me one day and he goes, Mama, I'm going to be stationed at Central Command in Tampa, Florida. And I said, well, that's good, son. And he said, yeah, I just found out like 5 or 6 months before they go somewhere and leave the other place, they're told where they're going. So he said, yeah, maybe I'll buy me a house with a palm tree in front of it, But then when he got here, he said, nah, I opted out for the car instead of the house. Still young and this and that. So anyhow, he said, yeah, I'm working at CENTCOM, and it's a pretty big job. It's in J5, Strategic Plans and Policies, a brigadier general. Now, Schwarzkopf was on his way off he was retiring. And this other general, brigadier general, was coming in. And Aaron was at CENTCOM for 3 years, but he was supposed to work with this one guy for 2 years. I think he ended up being with this guy 1.5 years and then transferred out of there because this general was a nefarious general. And things were taking place that shouldn't have taken place. And my son put him on notice and moved on to work with the director of intelligence. So, and you couldn't get past anything until you went through my son at J2. So, and he was also one of the human intel guys. And human intelligence, you go to Africa, Afghanistan, Iraq, he'd fly back and forth. And, you meet up with one of the, I'm not going to say bad guys, but you get intelligence from different sources. And, you put your life on the line because they could cut your head off, Some things, we had Al Qaeda and we had ISIS and we had the Taliban, okay?
Right.
Between those places in Iraq and Afghanistan. So anyhow, that being said, they at Central Command in 2007, they voted Aaron the Marine of the Year
Wow.
on that post for the second time. The first time he was only in the military 2 years, and they chose him at Quantico, Virginia. And then the second time, um, it was at CENTCOM, and he told me, he said, Mama, we walked into Busch Gardens in Tampa, Florida. They had a big ceremony and dinner. It was really beautiful. I should send you a picture of that. And really beautiful. And there was the Army, Air Force, Navy, and Marine of the Year. So Aaron was Senior Marine of the Year.
I know you are a proud mama.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, he looked so handsome in his uniform too.
Yeah.
And when they did these awards, they had their swords up in the air, and Aaron walked through, under the swords. And so he said to me on the way in, Mama, they signed off on me to become an officer, but I don't want to be an officer. So they come up to you, and they will, the head of CENTCOM, the head general, just let them know I'm my own man and I'll make my own decisions. I said, yes, son, I respect that. So, and I think he was probably about 27 years old at this point. Yeah. So
young.
when I got there, they approached me 3 different times. And these big generals, and they're like, we signed off on your son's paperwork to go to officer candidate school. Please talk him into it. But I didn't know then, but I think there were nefarious plans.
Oh.
And Aaron didn't tell me things like that because he never wanted me to worry, And then in 2007, August 1st of 2007, he deployed to Japan to the 3rd Marine Assault Division. Okay. And then he had been there a couple of years before he deployed over to Afghanistan.
Speaking of Afghanistan, Mother, I was watching that 60 Minutes video that you sent me. And what they said was that it was an operation that went terribly wrong.
Yes.
Can you take us to that I don't know, that day or that period? Let us know what happened.
Well, it went wrong because they wanted it to go wrong because they were set up to fall. Okay. So what ended up happening was from being in Japan at 3rd Marine Assault Division, they had these embedded training team groups. Now, the embedded training team 2-7 had been over there for about 8 months, and they rotated back to Japan. And then my son and his men, they were embedded training team 2-8. They went over about the 3rd week of July. And my family and I actually spent 4th of July week with my son for that week. And then he had to fly back to Japan to come back with his men to Afghanistan. And so what happens there, they have a big headquarters, and it was Camp Joyce, and it was in the Kunar province of Afghanistan. They have provinces where we have states. And so what the Marines do, so you have your headquarters, but then you have 4-man teams, and you don't stay at the headquarters. They're little divisions that are scattered all around the perimeter of Camp Joyce, which is the headquarters. So my son and his men, they had probably the most dangerous Camp Monte is where they were up. It was way up the mountain area because the 4 of them and his team were probably the most athletic and toned and ready to go for action. And
Excuse me, Mother. Were we at war at that time or anything?
yeah, this
Oh,
this
okay.
is the longest war, a
Okay.
20-year war, Iraq and Afghanistan, which,
Okay.
by the way, it started with 9/11.
Mm,
That's why I'm saying I was half awake when the
okay.
Lord showed me, watch as this building implodes. Little did I know that the Lord would be there to direct me through,
Mm,
you know, my son's death at this point. And this was the reason we were at war.
I see.
And actually, let me step back for a second too, Dr. Kia,
Okay.
because do you and your listeners know the real reason for 9/11? We're living through it now because Nasara was supposed to be going off that day at 10 in the morning. Alan
Mm,
Greenspan was going to read that all Americans were going to inherit part of their Jubilee.
mm,
And Daddy Bush had moved into the White House the night before. And now we have evidence of all this stuff. And so, yeah, he was part of working with the other dark forces because
mm.
we had gold there. We had the Chinese gold in those towers.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And that was moved out, and all the explosive devices were put in. I have friends that were there that day that
Mm,
survived.
mm.
So I get a lot of eyewitness accounts. As the Lord always gives me, there's
Okay.
always an eyewitness that falls in Susan Price's lap.
Mm,
So, anyhow, uh, that was the beginning of this Iraq war and Afghanistan war.
okay.
Um, yeah.
And that's why your son was over there in Afghanistan
Yeah,
because
because
of the war.
we were at war. I mean, and that's the development of ISIS and Al Qaeda and the Taliban. So recently, what's come out, which I knew then because I had witnessed it, that the military industrial complex, which is all the big makers of the bullets and the planes and
Mm,
anything to do with war, they were, and the corporations were funding the bad guy, working with those in Congress to kill our sons and the husbands that were fighting for our country. That's all new stuff that's come out
oh
with
my
the
God.
Afghanistan papers, and eyewitnesses started emerging years later. Nobody was around when my son was killed. And if they were, their voices were stifled. I
Mm,
myself was followed and the target of attacks. My house broken into the night before my son was killed. And I actually was moving. And that was the last time I talked to my son the night before he was killed. And a few years before that, my internet, my email was confiscated. I was followed. I was shot at. They missed me, but my
mm,
window was shattered on my vehicle. The doctor I worked for, her daughter took pictures of the window in the car, and mysteriously, her camera got stolen out of her underneath her seat of her car, and
wow.
it disappeared, even though she had it in her pocketbook. They didn't take that, but they took the camera.
Camera. Mm,
Uh, and then the guy that lived next door to me at the time was my son's friend, and he lived so close to me in a townhome. You couldn't get to me unless you went through him, and he would be up till 5 in the morning working out of his garage. And I got up at 5 in the morning. That's when he went to bed. So one day he was up at the corner on his Harley, and a car came from the other side of the street and got in front of him and put the brake on, and he flew up in the air
mm.
and he had to be mercy flown into Tampa General. He almost died.
Oh my
and he
God.
was there for a week. Well, on my way home, unbeknownst to me at the time, Spirit told me don't go home, and so I had to go somewhere else to a family member that lived here at that time, and stayed there for a week, and then not knowing, Brian calls me a week later and says, I need to talk to you. I was almost killed.
Oh,
And I think that somebody's trying to get to you, and I'm in the way, and it has to do with your son. So when I got home that day, he told me all these things that keep happening to you, I think that they're following you, watching you. And I was still in shock. I didn't
yeah.
want to register that. But then I started, that conversation with him put everything in perspective for me.
Mm, mm.
Because I don't want to jump to conclusions, because
Yeah.
though I have that ability and that gift, and but I'm also a factual, I'm a researcher. So I have to see it, to experience it, to
Mm.
see it. And then the night before my son was killed, someone broke into my
Oh
home.
my God.
Yeah, and other things too. One day I was on the couch and there was that red taser light, that
Mm-hmm.
light,
That you just, yeah.
shining on my wall.
Oh
And I
my
had
God.
just come home from working all day and showered and changed into comfortable clothes. And I hadn't sit on the couch for more than 5 minutes. And I saw, that red light, and I thought, no. I clicked the TV
Mm.
off. I got down like Rambo, and I grabbed. From that day on, I kept to go bag in my vehicle, and it's really sad that 10 years of my life, the last two of the Bush administration, and the entire 8 years of number 44, that I had to look over my shoulder all the
Mm.
time. Now, I didn't drive at night, and I always had traveled in big groups, and that's really a sad way to live.
Oh
And
my God.
so I saw then what y'all are seeing now. I saw
Yeah.
so much more, but I'll
Mhm.
spare you those tragic moments. But so when my son was over there, and the Lord was talking to me, and my family and I were very concerned, because they too had this feeling of doom and dread. So Aaron only made it alive over there. I went in July, the
Mhm.
second or third week, and he was killed on September 8th, 2009.
And
And he was,
somebody came forward, right, and said that they were trapped and it was a
oh,
setup.
yeah, there's a lot of eyewitnesses. I have the investigation report, but the video that you have, that's the first Medal of Honor recipient.
Okay.
And he told everyone they were set up. It was a three-sided ambush.
Okay.
But before that happened, the day before, they were attacked on their base at Camp Monte. And explosives were dropped, and one of the Afghan soldiers was blown into bits. And my son was sitting right next to him. It just missed my son and hit this guy. And I'd seen reports, two reports. Uh, my son was the target of those, and I believe he was the target of this. And so when they survived, and they all came out and they went and they prayed, and they had the cigar and they were saying their prayers and just talking. Then they got a call to report to Camp Joyce the next morning at 2 or 3:30 in the morning. And they asked their interpreter, what is this Ganj Gal, this village that we're supposed to go into? And they said the Russians were at war for 10 years and never beat the Taliban. No wonder, guys, because they were being armed and supported by the military industrial complex. Are you kidding me? The enemy was given even more ammunition and arms even then by the military industrial complex. Okay. And this is the war that Trump talks about, the silent war. because these people are part of the ones that are with the Ukraine, with all the tunnels and the labs. These are the people behind it. So my son's stories coming to life again because the people he had known and worked with, a section of those bad guys were behind all this. And now that's part of your reality and my reality. And he had been on a top secret mission within a mission that day. So Aaron found himself as a target. So the next day they had to report, and it was our Labor Day weekend, or a day or two later, when he was killed, the Tuesday the 8th, right after Labor Day weekend. And since the bad guys didn't have any luck hurting my son and his men that day, and they lived to tell about it, they had to go into the Camp Joyce. Now, let me go back. That day the day before they killed my son, that's when my house was broken into. And that's the day the village elders were paid a visit by someone from the State Department. Now, why is somebody from the State Department meeting with these village elders that were supposedly going to renounce the Taliban? You know they're not going to. This was on the cusp of Pakistan. That's where all the trafficking took place, the drugs and the arms. Seriously? It's a setup, a three-sided setup. And by the way, it was the Russian mothers, the power of the mother again, that got those Russian soldiers out of Afghanistan in that very area that my son was killed in. And so we had knowledge of that, our military. Why, number one, ask yourself, and this was one of my first questions as a natural born detective, why would we put our bases so close to the enemy, first of all? Only when you do business with somebody do you do that. And, other things emerged too. Why were we, with taxpayer dollars, building their Muslim mosques and their sewer systems? We're at war with these people. What the hell are we doing over there? Unanswered questions. So that morning, before my son and his men went into the village, one of the officers went to turn in the roster with who was there that day, what their religion was, their blood type, and their social security numbers, and their job duties. I have a copy of that roster. I know. So when he went to put that in, nothing was told to this officer. Well, geez, we have 38 Taliban from this guy that came in last night, and 68 from this one. And oh, by the way, 40 from this one. There was 100 to 150 Taliban that had gone into the mountain areas waiting for my son and his men to get there. And you had coalition forces that didn't relay this intelligence information. You got to be kidding me. So when they walked in, the lights were flickering. The people in the town were walking out with their animals. And 2 weeks prior to this, General McChrystal, another deep stater, had come up from the Pentagon, slapping a second set of handcuffs on our forces, saying you can't fight back if the enemy's firing at you.
Wow.
Yeah. The rules of engagement. Are you kidding? Listen, I met mothers and fathers that talk about their Marines and their soldiers being made and forced to walk through minefields, and their sons blowing up under an order. You walk through this minefield, son. The things that I've heard and seen, the egregious tragedies of the less than 1% of us that fight and give you all a voice, is just, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And then our baby boys come home in a box with the flag on it.
Mm.
We lose a part of ourselves. But I turned my tragedy into helping heal others, into fighting
Yes.
for them, and say, look, you got a voice. Use your, what's this for? My son lost his voice on the battlefield that day. And let me tell you how. Because that day, there were men in the Tactical Operation Command when this war was going on, and the air-conditioned Tactical Operation Command, where you had a couple officers and then you had sergeants and corporals. Those young guys were doing their job, okay?
Yeah.
But two officers that were supposed to be there monitoring had nothing but excuses. And let me tell you how I grew up. An excuse is nothing but a missed opportunity. And sometimes it's a lie.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we know it because we had eyewitnesses there to watch all this nefarious. Those guys, somebody put them in those positions,
Mm-hmm.
said, we're going to give you a higher rank if you do this. So can you imagine your son or your husband being out in the Afghanistan battlefield and it's 125 degrees in his uniform, that battle rattle uniform. And here's guys that are in the air-conditioned Tactical Operation Command, the TOC, and they're questioning my son and his men for air and artillery support, when they're screaming, we need air and artillery support. Give us some more rounds. Give us some smoke so that you can run for cover, with the smoke. They were denied all that. They were denied the right to fight for their lives. I'm shocked that my son lasted 2 hours in that fight. And let me tell you, one of the officers turned the frequency of the radios down.
Oh my God.
So my son and his men couldn't be heard.
Oh
And
my
this
God.
is in the eyewitness reports, guys. I have 500 pages of redacted report, one from the Army, one from the Marine Corps. I got on my hands and knees and I prayed to God. And I said, Lord, you show me. I'm a warrior, Mother. Do I fight this? What do you want me to do, Lord?
Mhm.
And I had Aaron's Bible when I was praying so hard I was crying. And the Lord so gently, open your Bible and where your right index finger lie. Read that verse. It fell upon Ezra 10:4. Arise and know this mission belongeth to thee. We will be with thee. Go of good courage. We have a living God, and God gave me that message. I called all the families and I said, this is what's going on. But this was my message for me. Arise and know this mission belongeth to thee. So the Lord gave me, this is my job in this lifetime, to defeat this tyranny at this level. These people that first we thought were just the Taliban and Al Qaeda, now we see domestic tyranny.
Mhm.
And excuses and obfuscations too. And two of the men that were supposed to have reprimands put in their file, whether they were and they pulled them out, but I know that one of them moved up not just once but twice in rank and was put in charge of a stability operation months later. And what you and I would think, a stability operation, that's to stabilize. Let's think of the street name for stability operations when it's for the bad. Trafficking, were they busy delivering drugs and arms, maybe? It's a form of a question. I'm alleging in a form of a question because I know better. And then by the time 2 hours come, and there was choppers that were called in because the young guys were in there, the corporals and the sergeants, they were sick over this. They're like, we got men out there crying and pleading for air and artillery support. If you don't get us support, we're going to die. And then you had the officers say, laughing and say, figure it out for yourselves. Is this for the Marines or the Army? What difference does it make? We're one. We're working together. These turncoats that did this to my son and his men, and it could be your children and grandchildren somewhere down the line. If people like me and other Gold Star families don't step up and use our voices to rescue us out of this tyranny. And so anyhow, my son and his men, they believed air and artillery support was coming because they were Marines. Marines always rescue Marines, but let's not forget the Army is always in charge at the war because they're the ones that deal with all the contractors. Everything goes through the Army. They have the bigger base. But to be laughed at, can you imagine me reading that? Here's my son and his men calling for air and artillery support, and they're laughed at and asked 20 questions. Who's on the damn roster? Figure it out, cowboy. The roster was handed in to you at headquarters when you didn't even tell anybody, tell the Marines about all the Taliban that were in. So these people should be court-martialed as well because they have the blood of true patriots, men of honor and valor in their hands. And so, yeah, I'm very passionate about this because it's coming up again. This is why we see President Trump, and you're living through it, guys. We're waiting for our Jubilee and our revaluation, but we can't get it until the rest of these criminals are taken down. And I personally have friends that have served that are officers, Marine and Army, the good guys. They too were thrown to the wolves, to the fox guarding the hen house. And
Yeah,
so,
I'm sorry.
well, I was just saying, and so with this, the last catapult to hit was here's my son and his men in a horseshoe valley. They were driven there on three sides. Whoever did this knew strategically where to have the bad guys run our people, my son and his men. And let's not leave out 12 Afghan soldiers that were working with this 4-man Marine team. So here come two of the big choppers, and they were getting ready to descend when somebody high up, another general at Central Command, coming in over the airwaves saying, clear the airfield. Clear the airfield, meaning don't rescue these people. Go. You got to go now. Even though you're above them and you could have them and out of there in a few minutes, you need to clear the airfield. If that's not a setup, people, what is? And answer me this. As a mother, and you read this, that your son could have been rescued, and it's told clear the airfield. By the way, that was a bad Illuminati general as well. We got their name. We know who they are. They're going to. Answer me this. If your son was in a battlefield and there was 100 to 150 so-called Taliban contractors, and how many times would you think that my son had been shot before he died? Just take a wild guess. 100 to 150 Taliban firing on 4 Marines or 3 Marines and 4 men. One time in the right cheekbone that severed my son's spinal cord. Guys, that's a hit. That's a hit. That's not a Taliban hanging off a cliff in a long gown and flip-flops. That's a hit. And they were heavily armed, more so. And why is our own people withholding arms and and ammunitions, as well as air support. Why? It just went on and on and on. And this fight went on until the afternoon. A lot of people were injured. My son and his men were killed. And then they told, well, the two men that became the Medal of Honor, unbeknownst to them at this time, were told, no, you can't go in and rescue. Listen, we don't leave any man behind. It doesn't matter if you're in the Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, Army, and Marines. No man gets left behind. So that's when the two Medal of Honor stepped it up and went in there. And my son had talked to the one and said, if I get in trouble, I'm going to give you my grids, come in and get me. And our team, come in and get us. But they had one tragic thing after another. And they were told, no, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. By our own people.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, this is where we're at now. And this is why I've been fighting. And I've met with many in Congress through the years. And I even met with the person that is the governor of New York, because I used to live in New York, and Kathy Hochul, who's worse than Cuomo. And she was the congresswoman in our district then, not knowing decade and a half later, she'd become the governor. But I spent 2.5 hours with her twice. She was on the Armed Services Committee. Yeah. Did I know she was the bad person then? I felt it in my soul, but I couldn't prove it. But today we see it. We all see what's going on now, what I had to live through with my family then. And trust me, we were followed and watched. And it's just been, when Trump came into office, all that stopped. It completely stopped.
Are you seeing any justice, Mother?
Not yet. It's on the way, but
okay.
The justice will come. You know, when we have our Nasara and we get the emergency broadcast, everybody, Mother Price is going to be so excited. I'm going to be dancing, because that's going to be the beginning of justice for America. When I cried when my son and his Marines died, I didn't just cry for my son. I'm not a selfish woman. I'm a patriot. I'm a warrior. And I have grandkids, and I did it for your kids too, and your grandchildren. But I'll tell you, my family and I saw all that then. But I cried for America, because that day America lost the war. We lost the war to those giving our great country over to China, because a lot of these generals, they're working with the Chinese. Okay. Now, there's two Chinese. The People's Republic are the good guys, and then the bad guy, Communist China. So, and this war in the Ukraine isn't what a lot of people think it is. They're being overrun. They were overrun by the Khazarian mafia and the military industrial complex. That's the Biden bunch, and I'm not, we know that 44 and Bush and Obama, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or Democrat. There's probably only 10 good Congress people around today. And they've all been usurped by the bad guy, by the enemies. So, but I've lived it out, and I survived it, because God's got big plans, and we will have our justice together. Once we get that emergency broadcast, and Nasara's on the way. It got that far now, and my son was on the top secret mission within the mission. I know he was tied to the alliance, the White Hat mission. In fact, a gentleman, one of the survivors of that war that ended up at Walter Reed Hospital, he lived a month and a day. It's not really my story to say, but he didn't make it. there was nefarious activities.
In the hospital?
Yes. And oh, by the way, the cameras just stopped working that day.
Mm.
Let's just say that.
Mm.
So these people, and then I had gotten us into the Pentagon through meeting with, now the governor, Kathy Hochul, but she was a congresswoman then. I got into the Pentagon and got our families in for a meeting with those generals. And I kept my poker face on. I knew they were going to lie.
Mm.
And they did. They told us a false story. So back then, I became like a mind reader because I'm actually pretty good at knowing who the bad guys are and looking and seeing. But then the bad general that my son worked for at CENTCOM was put in office by George W. Bush to work in the State Department as a deputy under the communist Madeleine Albright, who was working with China. And oh, by the way, some of these generals' wives were working with the UN, who were also working with China. I've seen it, I've heard it, I've lived it, and I'm done. Now it's time. Let's get it over with. Let's get these minions brought in through the redemption centers and get rid of all the bad evil. It's time for regeneration and healing.
Was this plan to turn us all over to the Communist Party of China? I heard you mention China a few times.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was, yeah.
Okay, that was the mission, the plan, the goal. Okay.
Yes. And when Trump got in, when the White Hats and Trump came in, everything changed. That's why I know things are being done.
Okay.
I've lived through it and I've seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have endured a whole lot, and I just can't imagine being that strong after going through so much, Mother, and just having to trust and depend on God. But you do it so well, trusting in God, going on in this battle, bringing people together. And so that's my question for you. Do you feel like is that part of your mission, to bring people together to help in the war, or what is your mission at this juncture?
Well, my mission is to bring peace, help bring peace and end this war. But also, I've worked behind the scenes and a few things that were, I can't really talk about them, but there were a couple false flags, let's say, and I alerted the powers that be to put an end to it, and that was taken care of. And I've joined forces with other military people that experienced this tyranny firsthand. One of my friends was an Army officer. He was thrown in jail at Leavenworth for over 6 years. Now he's going to become an attorney. Trump released him and a few other men at Thanksgiving time, the year before President Trump got out of that administration. And and so he's a good friend of mine, and they used him as a scapegoat. But unbeknownst to him, I have another Marine friend that was set up by the same man that set him up over a decade earlier.
Oh my God!
This guy, this officer, the bad general that set both of my friends up, Army and Marines. How is it that I know the human witness that could help the other guy, but this man, this bad general, these people are family dynasties. Some of them are Operation Paperclip, tied to the Bush administration. Okay. In fact, this guy's the nephew. The bad guy is the nephew of George W. Bush's best friend, who happens to be the ambassador to the Vatican.
Wow.
Yeah, so what does that tell you with trafficking and that? I mean, the depths of what I've seen, who's tied into NATO, and this one working in the Department of Homeland Security and cybersecurity. No wonder our elections were hacked.
Mm.
People went off and started corporations and companies working with 150 other cities or other countries with our information. And they first started in the military and then worked their way into uh, the military, into political arena. I mean, I've seen an eyeful. And so I think that my mission is to protect our children on every level, and to get people to wake up and to bless people, because with the currencies that I've known about over 13 and a half years, I've probably blessed thousands of people with this information. Wow. But I'm just a mother, everybody, raising my voice, elevating my voice in the name of love and justice, and recruiting you as my soldiers of humanity. What can you do to add and give back to this equation? We can't go backwards, we can only go forward. But it's all in the name of love and protecting our children.
Yes, because you not only talk about what's been going on with the military industrial complex and, you know, the deep state in regards to our sons and fathers and mothers and daughters fighting too, but you also wrote a very beautiful article about what's happening with our children.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? What'd you say?
The Lord used me, and the Lord told me it's just not all about Aaron and his Marines and Army and Air Force, but look what's going on with the children. Look what's going on with our air, water, our food. And so the Lord has used me as a beacon of light to shed light on the darkness.
Yes.
So I'm that laser light that sees evil in the darkness and calls it out, because I'm not afraid.
You're not. You're very courageous. You are.
I've been chased down, and then I turned my car around and chased the DOD. I've been followed by the Department of Defense for years. And I actually helped the second Medal of Honor obtain his Medal of Honor when his citations disappeared off of number 44's desk. Not just once, but twice. You see how they tried to hide the story?
Yes.
But the Lord is the master healer, and God rose up and created 2 living Medal of Honor recipients, and then a mother with a big mouth. So
we thank you for your big mouth, mother. You've been through so much, and yet God has blessed you to still be here with us. What an honor and a privilege, mother, to know you. And it's just a blessing to hear you that you've been shot at, you've been chased. Then you turned around and chased the bad guys.
Yeah, I did. And I had my police friends, I'm like, call this, find out what license plate this is. They're like, Susan, why are you being followed by the Department of Defense?
Wow.
Oh, yeah, and the State Department was following me too. I had the Black Hawk helicopters, not just me, but my friends whenever I was. Now, listen, this is not just about a Marine, a high-profile Marine that knew the agenda of today.
Okay.
This is them trying to scare a mother that has the power of using social media to get the word out, because I've been out on the radio, podcast, and writing for over 13 years now. To me, it's work, guys. It's not look at me, because I could be dragged around to a lot of high-profile events, which I discourage, and I'm like, nah, it's okay. I'm good. I just want a normal life, but that's the price. That's a consequence that comes with having a son that knew the demons and dragons of the world. And so that's okay. Listen, we all have blessings coming, and we're going to have a big party one day, and maybe I'll get to meet some of the viewers. Like
that would be awesome. That would be awesome.
I'm blessed with you, Dr. Kia, Prime Minister, and and all my other friends that we know and work together.
Yes.
Us, this is to wake the public up. This is our job. You know, I don't get paid for this, but I do it out of love. I do it out of love.
Thank you for
So
your love, Mother. Has the harassment stopped, Mother, and the being chased and all that?
yeah, it stopped when President Trump was in office. That's why
Okay.
I know stuff's being done. The good
Oh,
guys are in charge.
that's
Listen, I had my car towed 3 times from in front of where I lived. My vehicle during daytime was towed. I mean, you don't even know.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
I've been cyber stalked and followed, and the second Medal of Honor warned me and said, Susan, they know who you are at the DOD and the State Department.
Wow.
And I thought, I'm just a mother. I'm just getting started into my investigations. What do you mean? But now I know because I see the whole
Now you know.
agenda. And my
Mm,
son saw it too,
yeah.
way back then, because these people they create agendas decades in advance. That's what they do.
Mm,
These are family dynasties
okay.
of military industrial complex, lobbyists, uh, some are Operation Paperclip spawn.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm.
So we're going to all see how it started when we have the emergency broadcast. And I will be loving life sitting there.
And you
I'm
said
going to,
when. You didn't say if. You said when we receive
yeah,
it.
oh, it's coming. It's coming.
Okay.
And, and I don't like to throw dates around, but y'all just get your food, get your drinks, get
Okay.
gas in your car, and be ready in March. Be ready for March,
In
April.
March. Okay.
This month, I think.
Okay.
I'm feeling it could happen this month.
Mm,
It could. Don't hold it against me if it doesn't, but we're right at the end now.
okay.
So too many things I know going on. I know Mark Z was talking. He had a girl on his show with a comment, and she said she had heard something in the Redemption Center at a
Mm,
Wells Fargo, that person had Zim and that they're getting ready. Get
okay.
ready to be ready is my new saying. And just make sure you take care of your babies because I've been fighting for them for so long now. Make sure you have enough food and don't let anybody be scared. This is a celebration. We're getting ready for a jubilee, and
Mm.
it's supposed to be this year.
If you can celebrate, Mother, and be hopeful and grateful
Yes.
to God for what is to come, surely we can. Surely
Yeah.
we can stand with you and praise the Most High God for this wonderful time, this new era into which we're going.
Amen. And I look
Amen.
forward to it because I'm done crying. I want to live. I've had
Mm,
beyond 13 and a half years.
yeah.
I was being attacked a few years before that. So a decade and a half of my life, So when Trump came along,
Mhm.
that's when things subsided. But now we're at the end of this military sting operation.
Yes.
I'm just so grateful. And
Are
thank
you
you
going to
for
write a book? Are you going to write a book, Mother?
it's
Somebody
in
said you should write a
process.
book.
It's in process.
Okay.
Once we have this time for ourselves to heal,
Hmm.
um, that will be a good time for me to finish it off. And let's hope by the end of this year, my book will be ready.
Okay. Well,
And
thank you so much. I'm sorry.
you're so welcome. And
I
thank
knew
you.
that I know you had to leave at a certain time, though I want to respect your time and tell you thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to speak here with us and share your story while at the same time encouraging us and giving us some wisdom on how we should prepare. Thank you so much, Mother. You are an inspiration to me and to all of us in the community and to our soul family.
You're
Thank
so
you.
welcome. And I just hope I didn't hurt anybody or wound anybody's feelings, or I hope my story isn't too overwhelming.
Oh,
But
no.
it's truth. And
That's right.
sometimes truth doesn't come as a friendly gesture. It hits you hard.
Where can we find you, Mother, if we want to support you? social
Well,
media?
I'll tell you what.
Okay.
Have me back on your show this week because
Okay.
what I do is the way I get paid, I'm working with a company that has healing products. They're wonderful healing products, and they were created they're made here, but the plants from Africa, South Africa,
Okay.
and all over.
Yes.
And they're very healing. And I'll bring David on your show. When is it? Wednesday? No,
Wednesday.
Thursday.
Oh, David's coming Wednesday, and then I think
that's XRP, Dave. We're going to
Oh.
do with my other company on Thursday.
Thursday. Okay.
So Thursday, I'll bring the person. His name's David too.
Okay.
David's a sign of the time.
Yes.
A biblical name David, but and his father and he were from South Africa, and he's a white South African, but don't hold that against him.
We won't.
Created the best healing products where shaman are just, they were enamored over it because of its healing properties. Okay. So that's how people can repay me if you heal yourself and are part of, purchasing some of these products. Okay. I will get a commission and support myself from that. So and then I also write for AmericaOutloud.com. Okay. And you can go on there and you'll see Susan Price is one of the writers. And then you have my email, so you can give my email out.
Okay. Okay. And you're also on, can we follow you on?
Oh, yes. Okay. Of course, I'm on the Patriot Party News.
That's right.
I'm the Quantum Warrior. So
the Patriot Party News.
The Patriot Party News.com. Okay. And you could also go to rumble.com and look up PPN, it's short for Patriot Party News, and then Quantum Warrior. Okay. See, Quantum is for the healing, and then the warrior. So my Monday and Wednesday shows, my Mondays are more geopolitical, and my Wednesday is about wellness because that's my passion. And I can't wait, Dr. Kia, for those 6,000 patents to come out.
Yes, yes. That will heal us.
There's going to be stuff that heals our air and our water and our food. I'm so excited. But until then, we got to stay healthy.
Yes,
so I'll be on your show Thursday with, those products, and we'll get into that for your.
And that's 1:00, right? I think it's 1:00 Thursday. Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you again, Mother. I know you have to run.
I love you. I got to run now.
Okay. We love you, family. Thank you for joining us. Bye. Take care, Mother. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.